just wanted to get on and talk about something that's been on my mind. Risk taking versus recklessness. And what is the difference, right? So I'll get right into it. This is your first time on our channel. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you think. Hopefully you get some value. But let's talk about what the difference is between risk taking and recklessness. Okay, because especially in the Black community, we are led by our emotions to a large degree. I know there's going to be some people that say, well, everyone's led by their emotions and everyone has emotions and things like that. I agree, but I think it's more pronounced within the Black community. Let me explain why. Right? When it comes to risk taking, typically you want to mitigate your risk. You want to measure your risk. You want to determine what risk level is this? Is this a high risk level thing, mid risk level, low risk? What are the consequences, right? Like there should be a systematic approach to how you approach risk. It's not just this is risky, but how risky, right? How risky, and on top of that, what happens in the worst case scenario, right? That's how I think you should approach risk taking, by measuring what level of risk it is, determining what the outcomes are, what is the benefit if you achieve this, what are the consequences if you don't, right? That's how I think you should approach risk taking. Now, recklessness, I think is the lack of determining risk. It's the lack of assessing risk. It's just this is risky, but you're not determining how risky it is. You don't care how risky it is. You don't care about the consequences. Here's an example, right? I see a bunch of online gurus or a bunch of online people who sell these courses for $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, whatever it is, right? And broke people who don't have $500 saved up, people who don't have a month's worth of bills saved up, they go out and they purchase these courses, right? They purchase these courses because they think these courses are going to somehow make them rich, right? To me, that's reckless. Why is that reckless? Because if you don't have at least a month's worth of bill money saved up and you're going and purchasing this course, hoping that it's worth the payoff, to me, that is a high risk situation. That is a high risk situation. But because we struggle in our community to assess risk, we're not properly vetting these courses. We're not properly vetting where we spend our money, right? So like, for example, to me, it's reckless if you don't have a month's worth of bill money saved up and you go buy a new pair of shoes. And this is assuming that the shoes aren't for a job or something, right? You go buy a 200 pair of J's. To me, that's reckless. That's risky. Why? Well, no, it's reckless and it's risky at the same time, but I don't think that we assess how risky it really is. And let me explain why. When you go and you don't have savings and you're being a conspicuous consumer, you're just going out purchasing things because it makes you feel good. That's very risky behavior. Why? Because it's high risk level behavior. Because if an unexpected bill comes up, which it will, if you get fired from your job, which you might, if something happens in your life, if your car breaks down, you need new tires, whatever it is, you don't have the money to do those things. And typically what ends up happening when you don't properly assess risk and do what's necessary to mitigate the risk, you end up putting yourself in a worse position than you originally started out with. So with the example of your car breaking down, if your car breaks down and you don't have money saved up to get it fixed or to get a different car, well, now what ends up happening is you may take out loans, or you may go get into extra debt that you wouldn't have gotten into trying to hurry up and get a different car. You may lose a job, right? So there are very, very realistic and dire consequences to not assessing risk, because when you don't assess risk and you don't mitigate risk, it turns into recklessness. And you don't want to be reckless, right? You don't want to be reckless, especially when you're on the come up, right? This is where I think a lot of people, especially within the Black community, they mess up at, because they get a little bit of money and then they become reckless. They get some money and now they just start spending, 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 and then they look up afterwards and then they try to assess the risk. You want to assess risk before you start making decisions, right? You want to assess risk before you start making decisions. Like me personally, I'm not gonna jump in no ocean water unless I know what type of fish are right there. Is this where the sharks are? See, I ask those questions beforehand. Is this where the sharks are? Is this where those poisonous fish are? Here come a dog. Oh, hopefully, y'all don't see me get attacked on camera. I guess there's footage. Yeah, see that? See that's mid risk for me right there. Walking there, that dog could easily jump that gate. That's a little risky. I should be on that side of the street where there's no German shepherds and stuff like that. But yeah, back to what I was saying before I was rudely interrupted. Um, it's risky, right? Like, you want to assess risk before you jump into the deep end, before you go on your journey, before you jump in. You want to assess risk, and you want to say you need to assess the risk and walk the other way. Yes, you definitely want to assess risk. But here's the issue that I think a lot of people have with assessing risk. We are used to, in the Black community, piling things up under the rug, sweeping them up under the rug. Oh, that bill, it's overdue, sweep it under the rug. That debt, sweep it under the rug. You're already deep in credit card debt. What do? Go get another credit card. You're already deep in debt. What do? Go to Best Buy and get a Best Buy card so you can get that new flat screen TV. Right? We keep on and keep on and keep on. And in the back of your mind, you're under a mountain full of debt. You're under tremendous pressure, and it's only getting worse. So what do? We hide from it. A lot of us hide from assessing risk because we don't want to face the risk. And here's an interesting thing that I found out as well. People will come to me because they know how my mind works, and they know that I'm going to give it to them straight, and they know that I'm not going to BS and sugarcoat it. They'll come to me after they've already done the thing they know they shouldn't have done. They come to me afterwards. They don't want to come to me before, because here's the thing with assessing risk. When you're assessing risk, you always have to keep in the back of your mind that you shouldn't do this, right? You need to be able to walk away. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people are not okay with. They want to do something regardless of the risk. They want to do it regardless of the risk, regardless of the cost. They want to do it. Working in the real estate industry, I saw this all the time. People who technically qualified for a property, they could not really afford it, but they would go ahead and get it anyways because that's what they wanted. And you try to show them the numbers, you try to show them the cost, you try to speak reason to them, and it's like, that's what they want though. They don't want to properly assess the risk, because we live in a time period now, especially with credit and things like that, where you can live a lifestyle that you have not earned yet. Right? And that's where a lot of people are right now. They're living a reckless lifestyle that they have not earned yet. And it's dangerous because by living like that, once you do increase your income, it starts to feel like you didn't even increase your income. So if you're making $50,000 a year, but you're living the lifestyle of someone who makes 100K, well, once you start making 100K, it's not even gonna feel like it. It's not gonna feel like you're living that you're making 100K, because all you're doing now is catching up. And what ends up happening is this: you start making the 100K, and now you're making enough to pay off the debt. But instead of paying off your debt, instead of getting your finances right, you just go out and try to qualify for more credit, for more things that aren't bringing you income. And now all of a sudden, you're deeper in debt, you're under more pressure, and you're just digging yourself deeper and deeper and deeper into a hole. And unfortunately, this is a trap. It's a trap, and you're the problem, right? That's the that's the ENS mindset, employee and self-employed. I mean, I think to a certain degree, but I see business owners doing that as well, right? Like some business owners, they'll start getting revenue and they'll start taking money out of the business and paying themselves and not properly investing in it, or going out and getting the business credit and living off of the business credit. And then what ends up happening is you lose the company and you're not able to pay your bills. So, I mean, I don't think it's exclusive to employees or people who are just self-employed. I think business owners can do it as well. I mean, essentially, it just comes down to risk, because you can you can not assess your purpose, your risk as a business owner as well. You could be going out here spending money on these vacations. You could be out here spending money on conferences and things like that, things that don't have high ROI. And now your business is going bankrupt, or you're not able to properly pay employees because you're spending money here where you should be spending it here. So I think that, you know, it can apply to business owners. It can apply to people who are employed, people who are self-employed. It really just comes down to how much are you mitigating risk. Because to be honest, most business owners are not making more than people who are employed. You know, most business, I think it's only like 20% of businesses make it past 5 years. 80% of businesses don't make it past 5 years. So, you know, their employees typically do better financially than business owners, because opening and running and operating a business is risky. And oftentimes people don't assess those risks, and that can be reckless, especially now where it's so easy to go online. How do you manage your money? How do you manage your time? How do you leverage your skills? And are you assessing risk? Right? Are you assessing risk when you go take out consumer debt? Are you assessing risk when you go take out business credit, lines of credit, when you go take out that mortgage or that second mortgage on your home, or even when you go buy a home? Say you're breaking up. Put a 1 in the chat if you could hear me. Yeah, the signal is not too good over here. But yeah, I just think it's important for us to learn how to properly mitigate risk. And what really, okay, you can hear me. Great. What really got me thinking about this, there's a YouTuber called Pocket Watching with JT. He's a financial planner, financial advisor, certified financial planner. And he goes in and talks about scammers within the Black community. And you'd be surprised at how many of these plays are being ran on Black people. The credit play, the real estate plays, the what else? The crypto plays, all of these different things. And I sit back and wonder, how do people be falling for this stuff? And I think it just comes down to we don't know how to mitigate risk. We don't understand that just because someone can articulate something does not mean it's a good investment. Does not mean it's a good thing for you to do. Like, I get so many messages, so many posts that come across my timeline talking about spend $500 here and you could be making $1 million here. Spend 1,000 here and you could be making 10,000 a month next week. All this stuff. Those are very risky things. And I think it comes down to, ultimately, we've been conditioned in the Black community to believe that the only way you can make it is through a miracle. The only way you can make it is through a miracle. That if you're the type of person who wakes up, goes to work, or you start you a business and you do everything on the up and up, it's going to be near impossible for you to make it. And that there's going to be some white person at the end of the rainbow stopping you from achieving what you want to achieve. And so that leaves a gap, that leaves room for people who want to take advantage of the Black community to come in and play savior. And that's how a lot of Black people continuously get scammed, and they're not looking at the risk of spending money with these people, because we've been conditioned to believe that the only way you're going to make it is through some miracle. And here this person comes, they're in a suit, or they're whatever, they're Black, they're telling you that, spend money with me, because if you spend it with white people, they're going to take advantage of you. But low key on the back end, they're the ones taking advantage of you. They're typically giving you a product that does not have deep information. They're giving you products that typically you can Google the information. And then on top of that, they're promising you unrealistic gains. They talk about how they have thousands of students, but yet many of them never even finish over 3% of the courses. And they try to make everything else seem like a scam, when in reality, it says a lot of Black people lack the discipline to do it on their own. That's going to take time and energy. I agree. I agree that there's a lack of discipline, but I also think that there's a certain mindset and there's a certain way that a lot of these online content creators and Black influencers speak to Black people, almost like, if you don't buy my course, you're a sellout, you're not for the Black community, or like, come do business with me just because I'm Black. And I think that that's hurting the Black community more than it's helping us, because let's be real, many of the people in the Black community are financially illiterate, and illiterate in general when it comes to reading and reading comprehension. And so here they have somebody who appears successful, and I say appears successful because anyone with, I would say, $500 could go out and make it seem like they have money online, right? Like, you could go with $500, you could go rent a car for a day, take a bunch of videos, go get you a nice little suit or whatever, something from Goodwill even, take some videos, make it seem like you have all this money, ask a real estate agent to go take you into a expensive property, and then you record it as if that's your own property. I've seen people pull up next to expensive cars and they're recording themselves next to the car to make it seem like that's their car. Right? All these things add up, and I think Black people are in a transition period. I think that because of the access to the internet, and because Black influencers have a playbook that they run, and a lot of Black influencers stick together in the content creation space, or in the I'm a real estate guru, credit guru, wholesaling guru, what else? Crypto guru, debt guru, all this other stuff. They stick together, and then what ends up happening is that's just the norm. It says that's the influencer game, white and Black. They have influencer housing in LA. Yeah, I mean, I mainly focus on the Black community. I don't see it as much in the white community in the same way in the Black. Like, there's not an affinity to other white people like people. So yeah, there's scamming that happens in the white community. It's like, I'm black, do business with me. And that's how they get scammed. That's how they get scammed. In the white community, it's like Ponzi schemes and other things. Not saying that it doesn't happen on a smaller scale, but I don't think that it's operating in the same way. There's a lot of affinity fraud happening in the black community. Unfortunately, people love to see that type of ish on our Instagram page. Yeah, people love to see it, but I hold content creators accountable because you don't have to turn the camera on and pretend that you're rich, pretend that you have a new Rolex, pretend that, you know, that rented car is actually yours. You don't have to show people your house, even if you have a nice one. You don't have to do that. So yeah, people love to see it, but they also believe it. They think that what they're seeing online is real, and they start to trust people, and they think, oh, this is a good person. But behind closed doors, the content creators know they're not balling like that. They know that their courses aren't really creating change like they think. They understand that this is basic knowledge. They understand all of this, but they want to eat too, right? But I think a lot more people are becoming aware of what's going on. That's how they make money. Yeah, that's how they make money. And I'm not against it. I'm not against online content creators. I am an online content creator. I'm not against course creation. All I'm saying is many of the things that are taught in these online courses, they're not skills, right? They're not teaching skills. You're right there. They're selling their courses. Yeah, they're selling their courses, which go ahead, sell your course. But if you would look deeper into what's going on with a lot of these courses, you'll realize that people aren't buying the courses because it's like, oh, I'm going to learn some information. A lot of that information is already free. They're buying it because of the affinity marketing. They're buying it because the content creators are saying, buy my course and you can be like me. Buy my course and you can be like me. Look, I have this fancy suit on. Buy my course and you can be like me. And then there's usually inflated numbers. Oh, I did $1 million in a week, or I made $1 million in a day, not letting people know that, yes, maybe you got $1 million check, but it took you years or months of working on a deal to get that check. And you may not even have gotten $1 million. It's just, we're at a time period now where people get online and they say certain things and people believe them, and that's how they're mitigating risk. They say, well, that person sounds good, so I'm going to spend $3,000 with them. $3,000 that they don't have, by the way. $3,000 that they likely got from their tax refund. But they think that by buying this course, it's going to change everything. And it typically doesn't. So they don't have an actual business. Right. Many of them don't have an actual business. Their actual business is selling the course. It's not in the thing that they're doing or that they say they're doing or they're teaching you to do. Like, there's a dude online, I think his name is like Mansa Musa or something. And he tries to teach people that you don't have to pay your bills and you have some account or whatever, I guess, and it just takes care of the bills. He went on Pocket Watching with JT, got clowned, and I guess he had an eviction, and apparently he tried to do what he teaches, and he ended up paying cash, which he tells people not to do. He ended up paying for it. So it's like when you dig into a lot of these people, you can see a similar theme, a similar trend. Many of them, they're not actually smart people. They're good marketers. They have people around them that feed them information and they parrot that information to sound knowledgeable, but rarely are they ever questioned from a critical perspective, and they understand their audience. They understand that many people in the Black community are desperate, yet they're scammers. Exactly. And scammers, see, people believe that scammers are lazy. Scammers are actually very hardworking, right? They intentionally leave out stuff, right? They do. They leave out stuff, and why? Because telling somebody, hey, even if you get an 850 credit score, you still need to have a decent income in order, even if you can get the credit cards and stuff, you still need to be able to cover the monthly payments of the credit cards. But they leave that kind of stuff out. It's just, well, I could get this taken off your credit record, and now you have an 850 credit score. Well, okay, what good is that if you don't have the income to keep up with the payments? Or if it's like you go out and rack up $20,000 worth of credit card debt, and then there's people telling you, well, just get the debt and then leave it on your credit for 7 years, and then have your partner buy all the assets in their name and stuff like that. All this wildness, super desperate. Res Dog 94, super desperate. I agree. They desperate. But scammers are not lazy. Scammers know their audience. They know what people want to hear. They study their audience, and they will say whatever and do whatever. I think there was just a pastor, like, or a bishop, whatever, Bishop Whitehead, allegedly scammed one of the people in his congregation out of like almost $100,000. Scammed them because he was telling them, "Oh, I can make you money. Just give me this 100,000, and I can make you money." And they gave him the money, and he went and spent it on car payments, luxury items, things like that. Why? Because people are so desperate. People don't want to take the time to educate themselves on certain things. They want a Hail Mary, right? It's like when I used to play Madden, there's a play called Hail Mary, where essentially all the wide receivers just gun it towards the touchdown, gun it downfield, and you try to do a Hail Mary because you don't want to sit there and run this play and get 5 yards here, get 2 yards here, get 3 yards there, right? Or maybe it's the fourth quarter and there's only 30 seconds left and you haven't been scoring the whole time, so now you're desperate. Now you need to make something happen, and you do a Hail Mary. And that's essentially what many of these people do. They end up losing their money, not all cases, but much of it. They try to do a Hail Mary when it comes to finances, when it comes to their life. Maybe they weren't investing when they were young or saving when they were young, making great financial decisions. Now they're a little older and they have to throw a Hail Mary. So understand, if you're in a desperate spot in your life, get right with yourself first. How's it going? If you're in a desperate spot in your life, get right with yourself first. Mitigate your risk, because when you're at the bottom, that's when you're most likely to get taken advantage of. It's interesting to see many of these folks leverage all that credit with no cash flow. Yeah, that's another issue. Is, you know, with financial literacy, you need to understand that just because you have access to capital, access to money, does not mean that you should always take it. Right? Just because you have access to a bunch of women who you could sleep with, doesn't mean you should just go sleeping with them. Right? Like, sometimes you need to be able to mitigate your risk and understand that access does not always equal good. Timing matters, the deal matters, making sure that you can actually manage the debt matters. But what ends up happening is we have a good year. Maybe we just started a business, we had a good year, and we can go qualify for things we couldn't qualify for. Like, I saw this when I came out of college. People that just graduated, they would go start an LLC, get a line of credit, or go get a car in their business name, and then, but they're not making any income. They just qualify for it. And they have this super expensive car, but now you're in $50,000, $60,000 worth of debt over a car. when you don't even have sales yet to back that up. So just be careful, right? Just be careful before you take on debt, before you go putting yourself in these risky situations. Understand the risk up front. Understand the risk up front. Come up with a game plan to mitigate the risk, and always be willing to walk away. Always be willing to walk away, whether it's from a relationship, a business venture, a job, uh, whatever the situation is, right? Always be willing to walk away. Stop walking into a street where you see cars coming at you. It's not necessary. There are sidewalks. So if you are trying to do something in life, whether start a business, whether you're thinking about moving jobs, understand the risk, come up with a game plan, and go after it. Because oftentimes when you mitigate the risk and you understand where risk levels are, you can better plan, and you're more likely to succeed at the higher risk things if you're aware of the obstacles that are in the way. But if you never pay attention to those things, then you just set yourself up to really fail. But that's my time. About to go eat lunch. Make sure you hit that like button, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think. And I'll see you next time.